Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're taking a hammer to one of the biggest misconceptions of our modern era. Most of us have been totally conditioned to believe that wealth is built in a flash, just a single dramatic moment. We picture a really lucky investment, a scrappy startup that suddenly goes public, or landing this massively high-paying job. But when researchers and economists actually sit down and study how quiet, everyday millionaires got to where they are, a completely different reality emerges. Lasting wealth isn't an event, it's a process. It's built entirely on small, repeated, and frankly almost boring behaviors that just compound over decades until they produce something truly extraordinary. So today, we're breaking down the 7 hidden habits that actually create wealth.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it completely dismantles the myth we're sold every single day. Think about headline wealth. This is the stuff that gets clicks, right? Lottery winners, overnight crypto billionaires, those dramatic success stories. But let's be real, it's an illusion for the vast majority of us. On the flip side, you have quiet wealth, and this is the reality for millions of wealthy households. These folks, they aren't making headlines. They rely on simple, unglamorous habits that quietly separate the people who are building lasting financial freedom from the people who merely look like they have it.
To understand exactly how these quiet millionaires operate, we've organized their habits into what we call the wealth engine architecture. Our roadmap today covers 4 steps. 1. Reversing your cash flow. 2. Igniting the growth engine. 3. Protecting your financial vault. And 4. The power of boring.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our first phase, reversing your cash flow, which covers habits 1 and 2.
Okay, let's dive into this. This first phase represents a massive psychological shift. And honestly, without this foundation, literally none of the other wealth-building mechanics are going to work. Habit 1 is all about how you treat saving. Most people, well, they follow a pretty predictable pattern. They get their paycheck, they pay their bills, they buy what they want, and if there's absolutely anything left over at the end of the month, they save it. Wealthy people reverse this completely. Step 2 is the secret sauce here. They pay themselves first. They move a chunk of every single paycheck straight into savings or investments before a single other bill gets paid. Why does this matter so much? Because when saving comes last, it just becomes optional. And human nature guarantees that optional things get skipped. Treating your savings as a non-negotiable, automatic bill fundamentally changes the entire psychology of your spending.
And that brings us to habit 2, which is living below your means, especially when you don't actually have to. Consider a tale of 2 incomes. We've got one person earning $40,000, living a pretty modest lifestyle, and managing to save $2,000. Below them, we have someone earning 10 times as much, $400,000, living a highly inflated lifestyle and saving that exact same $2,000. This perfectly illustrates lifestyle inflation, which is arguably the single biggest threat to wealth building. Because as incomes rise, spending usually rises right along with it. Ask yourself, when you get a raise, does your lifestyle instantly inflate to match it? The wealthy deliberately interrupt this pattern. When they get a raise, they bump up their savings rate first, and only let their lifestyle catch up very slowly. The size of your paycheck doesn't create wealth. The gap between what you earn and what you spend does.
All right, moving on to phase 2, igniting the growth engine, covering habits 3 and 5.
Once you have that cash gap we just talked about, you have to force that money to work for you. And this brilliantly illustrates habit 3, understanding and really respecting compound growth. An early starter in their 20s actually contributes less of their own money in total, but ends up with significantly larger final wealth than a late starter in their 40s who invests twice as much out of pocket. How is that possible? Well, it's because compound growth isn't just your money growing, it's your money growing on its own growth. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. The wealthy understand that time in the market is vastly more powerful than trying to time the market. The habit here isn't being some kind of Wall Street math genius, it's literally just starting early, being endlessly patient, and resisting the urge to pull your money out when things get a little bumpy.
Habit 5 involves exactly where you're placing that money, prioritizing appreciating assets. Think of it this way. Every time you spend $1, it goes into one of 2 buckets. It either goes into something that loses value the second you buy it, like a sports car that drops 20% in value the minute the tires hit the street, or it goes into something that produces income or grows over time. The wealthy are hyper-conscious of this distinction. They prioritize things like stock index funds, real estate, and small businesses. But interestingly, they also view education and certifications as assets. Investing in your own skills increases your earning potential, and that pays dividends for your entire career. It's all about deliberately tilting the balance away from things that depreciate and toward things that appreciate. Next up is phase 3, protecting your financial vault, which includes habits 4 and 6.
Now that your wealth engine is running, you've got to defend it. I want you to really let this number sink in for a second. 24%. That represents a typical high interest rate on a modern credit card, and it brings us right into habit 4. The wealthy aren't afraid of debt across the board. I mean, they use mortgages and business loans strategically all the time. But consumer debt, carrying an interest rate like this, they treat that entirely differently.
They actually view high-interest consumer debt as a structural risk. The math of carrying a 24% balance is completely unforgiving. It will absolutely outpace almost any investment return you could possibly hope to generate. While a lot of people just view carrying a credit card balance as a normal monthly inconvenience, wealthy households view it as a total emergency. They know that this kind of debt can quietly, brutally erase years of diligent savings progress, even if you're doing literally everything else right. If you are carrying balances, the wealthy would tell you to treat it like a 5-alarm fire.
So the crucial point is how you measure your progress. Habit 6 is that the wealthy track their net worth, not just their income. Net worth is simply what you own minus what you owe. Most people just use their salary as their financial scoreboard. But as we saw earlier, a high income can be spent entirely, leaving you with absolutely nothing to show for it. Net worth, on the other hand, it cannot hide the truth. It only goes up if you are genuinely spending less than you earn and investing the difference. Treating your net worth as your primary financial scoreboard will fundamentally shift your daily behavior.
Finally, we reach Phase 4, the power of boring, covering Habit 7.
We have officially arrived at the climax of this explainer, the thread that ties this whole shebang together. Habit 7 is that wealthy individuals make their financial decisions deliberately boring. We're talking automated savings that you don't even have to think about. Diversified, totally unremarkable investments held for long periods of time. Very few dramatic changes. And this runs directly counter to everything we see on social media and television, right? Real wealth accumulation doesn't involve high-risk bets or frantic daily day trading. The most reliable path to financial freedom looks almost totally uneventful from the outside.
To summarize this reality, I absolutely love this quote from the research, and I want you to really let this sink in. It's a graph that slowly, steadily climbs for 20 or 30 years, built on decisions that were made once and then left alone. That is the essence of it right there. None of these 7 habits are particularly exciting on their own. They're unglamorous, they definitely don't make for a thrilling movie plot. But through the sheer power of time and consistency, thousands of small, repeated decisions quietly produce an extraordinary result. These habits, they aren't hidden because there's some grand secret locked away in a vault. They're hidden because they are so unremarkable that most people just overlook them while they're searching for a faster, flashier trick. But now you know the truth. The roadmap is right in front of you. So the only question left to ask yourself is this: are you ready to make your money boring?